When one Harley dealer closes, that's bad luck. When every single dealer in an entire state shuts down at the same time, that's a system collapse, and that's exactly what just happened in Hawaii. Riders across the islands woke up to find their local Harley shops, places they've trusted for years, locked up, inventory gone, phones dead. Meanwhile, Harley's earnings reports still talk about strong profitability and network optimization. But here's what they're not saying. Over the last decade, worldwide motorcycle shipments have dropped nearly 45%. North American sales still sliding another 5% year over year. In this video, we're breaking down the real forces that killed every Harley dealer in Hawaii. Cash flow collapse, forced inventory, brutal floor plan interest, and why your state could be next. Watch till the end, because I'm going to show you the exact warning signs to watch in your own area. When the money stops moving, Harley dealers are not closing because they suddenly forgot how to sell motorcycles. They are closing because the money stops moving fast enough to cover the stack of bills on the counter. When that cash flow dries up, even a proud, long-standing dealership can go from hanging on to shut for good in a matter of weeks. Think about what a typical store is carrying: dozens of big twins on the floor and more in the back, every one of them tied to borrowed money. The dealer has to pay rent or the mortgage on a large commercial building. Utilities on a high-ceiling showroom are brutal. Insurance, taxes, payroll, loan payments on equipment, software subscriptions, marketing costs, all hit every month whether a single bike sells or not. None of those vendors care that the last 3 weekends were rained out. For years, dealers could smooth this out. A rough winter got balanced by a strong spring. A slow month on new units got offset by packed service bays and a busy parts counter. There was always just enough cash rolling forward. That fragile rhythm started to break around 2023 and 2024. New bike sales slowed. Parts and apparel baskets shrank as riders watched their own budgets. Service work suffered because many owners stretched intervals or delayed big jobs. Revenue slid while every single cost in the building crept higher. The end rarely looks dramatic from the parking lot. One morning, the owner sits down with the bank statement, the stack of invoices, and the upcoming payroll date. The numbers simply do not work anymore. There is no way to cover another full cycle without risking total personal bankruptcy. That is when the decision gets made to lock the doors for good. Cash flow collapse is the real, brutal reason the signs come down. The real question is what forces upstream turned so many once solid dealerships into cash traps with no escape route. Forced shipments no one asked for. One of the biggest forces is not visible to most riders. Dealers often do not control what shows up on their loading dock. Corporate decides what needs to be pushed into the channel, and the dealer is expected to find a way to sell it, whether it fits the local market or not. When the factory ships a bike, it often counts as a sale in company reports. For the dealer, that same unit is an obligation, not a victory. Allocation systems reward stores that take whatever corporate sends. Say no too often to a shipment, and you may lose your shot at the few models that buyers are still lining up for. Say yes every time, and you end up swimming in units your area cannot absorb. Many dealers describe months where trucks arrived with far more motorcycles than they had requested, including paint schemes that do not move in their town and expensive trims that do not match local incomes. They signed anyway, because refusing meant angering the only supplier that matters to them. From a headquarters spreadsheet, those outbound shipments look like healthy distribution. They support rosy language about retail readiness and product availability. On the ground, they look like row after row of unsold iron crowding the floor and filling the back lot. Every crate unbolted in the warehouse feels less like new opportunity and more like another block of concrete tied to the dealership's ankle. From the outside, all most riders see is a showroom full of bikes and big sale banners. Inside the office, the owner is staring at a list of units that should never have been forced on that location. Each one is another bill waiting to land. Those unsold motorcycles are not just taking up space. They are attached to financing that gets more dangerous every time interest rates move higher. That is where the trap becomes deadly. If you want more straight talk on what is happening to riders, hit like so this reaches more bikers, subscribe so you do not miss updates, and tell me how dealer closures are affecting your area in the comments below. Interest rates, killing showrooms. To understand how deadly, you have to look at floor plan financing. Almost no dealer pays cash for all the new motorcycles you see lined up under the lights. Instead, they rely on a floor plan line of credit. A lender fronts the wholesale cost of each unit. The bike goes on display, and the dealer pays monthly interest on that borrowed money until it finally sells, and that particular chunk of the loan gets cleared. When interest rates hovered around 3 or 4%, dealers could live with it. A bike might sit a month or two, and the carrying cost stayed small enough to hide inside a normal profit margin. It was an annoying cost of doing business, but it did not threaten the entire store. Once rates climbed toward 8, 10, or more, the same system turned vicious, especially for smaller or rural locations. Take a big touring Harley with a price tag near $30,000. If it sits for half a year while buyers hesitate, the interest on that single unit can chew through a serious slice of the dealer's margin before anyone ever signs the paperwork. Multiply that by 20, 30, or 40 motorcycles moving slowly, and the numbers start to look impossible. The dealer is paying significant money every month just to show you a full floor. Corporate language smooths this over by talking about channel inventory management and dealer discipline. The reality is that rising floor plan interest has turned inventory into a slow bleed straight out of the dealer's veins. Yet, when you listen to official company calls, it sounds like everything is under control. That is where accounting tricks and real-world pain start to separate. Corporate hides the truth from the outside. Riders hear that the company posted strong profit and wonder how so many dealerships can be closing at the same time. The answer lives in how results are counted at the top versus how survival is measured on the street. When the factory ships motorcycles to dealers, those outbound units often show up as revenue. The bike may still be sitting under fluorescent lights with a price tag, but as far as the corporate ledger is concerned, the sale already happened. On top of that, one-time financial moves can make a struggling core business look healthier than it really is. Selling off parts of a finance arm, shutting down facilities, cutting staff, or squeezing suppliers can pump up earnings for a quarter or two. Shareholders see neat charts, confident language about efficiency, and reassuring talk about network optimization. None of that stops the interest meter from running at a family-owned dealership that just had another thin month. The balance sheet does not record the tech, with 20 years of Harley experience packing his toolbox into a pickup because the shop is closing. It does not show the owner who refinanced his home to fund a showroom upgrade corporate pushed, only to be left on his own when sales crashed. All that damage gets buried under polite categories and upbeat slides. That is how a company can look stable on paper while its frontline partners bleed out one by one. The truth is not in the press release or the earnings call. The truth is in the empty buildings where the Harley signs have already been taken down, and the lot is scattered with oil stains and memories instead of fresh bikes. The closure wave. You can tell when one dealer fails. You feel it when many fall in a row. Across the country, closing signs are going up on buildings that survived far worse times than today. These are not weak, fly-by-night shops. Many are family outfits that made it through the 1930s. Wartime rationing, gasoline crises, and early 2000 recessions. They did not fold in those storms. They are folding now. Take Florida. In Titusville, Miracle City, Harley-Davidson shut its doors in late 2024. Riders showed up to find the gates locked and the website stripped. No farewell party, no big send-off, just a notice and a lot of questions. Move west and you hit San Francisco, where a century-old dealership sold its last bike in 2024 after failing to meet new corporate expectations and carrying costs. That store had seen generations of riders walk through, including returning veterans from 2 separate wars. It still could not survive the new math. When you line up these stories from coast to coast, it stops looking like random bad luck. It starts looking like a pattern that is finally big enough to measure. Those personal stories are powerful, yet the hard numbers behind them tell you even more. Numbers behind those closures paint the real picture. A decade of declining sales, To see how deep the trouble runs, you have to look at the past decade, not just one bad season. Over roughly 10 years, Harley's worldwide motorcycle shipments dropped by around 45%. That means that for every 10 bikes the company moved a decade ago, they are only moving a little over half of that today. Few businesses can lose that much volume and walk away healthy. Short-term reports confirm the slide has not stopped. In the third quarter of 2025, total worldwide motorcycle sales fell roughly 6% compared to the same quarter a year before. North American sales, which is where most United States dealers live or die, slipped around 5% in that same window. On its own, a 5 or 6% drop may not sound fatal. Stack it on top of a decade of declines, and you can see why dealers feel like they are standing on a floor that will not stop sinking. Once you accept that fewer bikes are being sold, at thinner margins, the next question is simple. All those unsold and lightly used units have to land somewhere. Falling volume forces inventory to go somewhere strange. The afterlife of dealer inventory. When dealers fail, the metal does not vanish. Every unsold Harley has to pass through somebody's hands before it finally finds a rider or a scrap heap. That afterlife tells you a lot about how the company treats excess stock and what kind of mess the network is really in. Start with auctions. When a dealership closes or needs to raise cash fast, truckloads of nearly new motorcycles roll into regional wholesale auctions. There, they can sell for thousands less than their original invoice price, sometimes barely clearing the dealer's debt. Those units often end up back on lots as lightly used bargains, quietly undercutting new bikes still sitting in glass front showrooms. It is great news for bargain hunters who know where to look. It is brutal for any remaining dealer trying to hold normal prices. By the time a closed dealer's inventory is scattered through auctions, finance lots, and used showrooms, the company has already counted those motorcycles once as shipments. The real cost is carried by the people who relied on that building as a lifeline. Those outcomes are not just numbers in a report. They land hard on families, workers, and riders. Those outcomes have a direct human cost. Dealers speak out. If you really want to understand what is happening, you listen to the owners and staff who have lived through the past few years. Their stories sound different on the surface, but the themes repeat: rising debt, forced shipments, thin or non-existent profit on new units, and a creeping sense that corporate is more interested in dressing up numbers than keeping long-time partners alive. One second-generation dealer told an industry outlet that margins on new Harleys are the worst he has ever seen. He said flat out that many stores are no longer making real money selling new motorcycles at all. The only thing keeping the lights on is service, accessories, and used bikes. That lines up with anonymous accounts from other regions, where owners describe watching factory trucks drop off shipments they did not want, knowing each crate meant another hit to their already strained credit line. When you collect those voices from Florida, California, Ohio, New York, and all the small towns in between, a clear picture takes shape. This is not a few unlucky shops. It is a system that has turned on the very people who carried it for generations. Those voices do more than describe a bad moment. They point straight toward the deeper strategic failures that set this collapse in motion over many years. The boomer. Exodus? For years, the myth said Harley riders would always be there. The thinking went like this: as long as there are American roads, there will be big V-twins rolling down them. That myth ignored a simple truth no marketing department can fix. The generation that built Harley into a cultural force is aging out, and they are not being replaced at the same pace. The core rider base through the 1980s, 1990s, and early 2000s was the baby boomer crowd. These were riders who came home from service, worked good trades or factory jobs, and saw a big twin as the reward for long hours and sore backs. For a long time, that group had money, health, and plenty of years left to ride. When your whole system was built around a huge wave of boomers, their gradual exit leaves a hole you cannot fill overnight. That shrinking core exposes another uncomfortable truth that marketing cannot smooth over. Buyer loss exposes costly product gaps. If you value honest, rider-level analysis instead of corporate spin, subscribe to the channel so you are the first to know when the next dealership story breaks, and stay ahead of changes that could blindside your wallet and your garage. Building the wrong bikes. For years, another myth floated around corporate hallways. It said, If you build the same kind of bike, riders will always come. That attitude worked when boomers were flush and chasing the dream they had seen in films and magazines. It stopped working when younger riders started comparing spec sheets and bank accounts with colder eyes. Look at what filled Harley showrooms through the last decade. Heavy touring rigs with high sticker prices, big cruiser lines aimed at image over practicality, and very few truly affordable gateway models that still felt special. When younger riders did show up, many were handed big finance quotes on machines that cost more than the cars their parents drove at that age. Some signed anyway, but many walked away shaking their heads. All of this happened while the core boomer crowd bought fewer new bikes each year. Demand was shrinking at the top, just as the company failed to hook enough fresh riders at the bottom. That is how showrooms end up full of beautiful machines that do not quite match where the market is going. When you stack that kind of product drift on top of a shrinking customer base, you get trouble. Product misses meet rising fixed costs, facilities that became anchors. During the boom years, corporate pushed a different story. The message was simple: bigger showrooms, fancier lounges, more glass, more chrome, and a high-end retail experience would lock in the brand's future. Many dealers bought into that vision with real money. They expanded, remodeled, and in some cases built entirely new flagship facilities to match corporate standards. Those buildings were not cheap. High ceilings, polished floors, custom fixtures, branded furniture, and massive signage all came with heavy price tags. To get there, dealers took on long-term loans and sometimes put personal assets on the line. It made sense when units were flying out the door in 2020 and 2021. The place looked packed, events were busy, and nobody wanted to be the only shop in the region still operating out of a modest brick box. While all that pain played out on Main Street, corporate continued to talk about modern retail, digital engagement, and new sales channels. Those ideas might help at the top line, but they landed like a slap in the face for owners staring at a gorgeous building they could no longer afford. It set the stage for the next blow. These costs collide with new sales channel pressure, the direct-to-consumer problem. Once corporate moved seriously into online configurators and factory-driven sales funnels, the ground under dealers shifted again. The official line claimed these tools would support the network. In practice, they nudged more control toward headquarters and away from the local shop that had built up its market one handshake at a time. Riders could sit at home, spec out a bike on a laptop, lock in pricing, and sometimes even arrange delivery without spending much time on a showroom floor. That might feel convenient for the buyer in the short term. For the dealer, it meant fewer chances to build relationships, upsell accessories, or move a different unit that fit the rider better. The traditional give and take across a desk started getting replaced with forms and emails. Put all of this together and you get the real picture. An aging core audience, product lines that did not fully capture new riders, heavy fixed costs from yesterday's boom, and direct sales tools that pull oxygen away from local shops. None of those forces alone would have guaranteed collapse. Combined, they make survival a high-stakes game that smaller dealers are steadily losing. The combined forces reshape survival odds for small dealers. Strategy or casualty? Look at the pattern from 30,000 feet, and one question keeps coming up. Are these dealers just random casualties of a rough market? Or is someone quietly steering the network toward a leaner, cheaper shape? When stores close in scattered towns, it is easy to blame local management. When closures cluster, while a few giant metro locations keep expanding, it starts to look like a plan. From a corporate angle, a smaller dealer body offers obvious perks. Fewer rooftops mean less support cost, fewer regional reps, and tighter control over pricing and branding. If you only have to deal with a handful of large, strategic partners, you can push through inventory programs, showroom standards, and marketing messages with less resistance. It is much harder for corporate to dictate terms to a wide field of independent family stores than to a tidy group of massive operators. Whether this is a fully mapped strategy or a cold acceptance of reality almost does not matter. The effect is the same. More and more riders live in areas where a single dealer controls everything, or where there is no dealer at all. That slow redrawing of the map does more than change where you buy a bike. consolidation shifts power and access across regions. Rivals fill the vacuum. Every empty building is an invitation. When a Harley sign comes down, rivals do not just shrug and drive past. Other brands watch those closures like hawks. They know riders still live there, still want to ride, and still need parts and service. The first company to plant a flag in that vacuum wins years of loyalty if they treat people right. You can already see it happening. In some areas where Harley dealers vanished, Indian stores have started appearing within a manageable drive. They are not shy about courting those displaced riders. They point to full coverage warranties, fresh inventory, and stable support. Japanese manufacturers take a quieter road, but their dealers are steady. Shops selling Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, or Suzuki usually are not closing at the same rate. That steadiness looks attractive when your old hangout has gone dark. So every time a Harley shop disappears from a town, someone else is laying out floor mats and hanging banners. That does not just change logo counts on a map. That shift drives concrete options for riders. The ripple effect. A dealership is more than a place to sign paperwork. It is a small ecosystem. When one closes, the blast radius hits far beyond a single owner. Skilled techs lose jobs or scatter into other industries. Sales staff, parts counter folks, and office workers have to scramble. The direct payroll loss alone stings in small towns where every steady paycheck matters. Then there are the local suppliers, print shops that made event flyers, food trucks that set up for open houses, charities that counted on ride-ins for donations. On slow winter days, that shop might have been the only buzzing spot on the block. Once the lights go out, surrounding businesses feel the drop in foot traffic and weekend energy. It is not dramatic enough to make national news, but it is real. Taken together, job losses, weakened small-town commerce, and fading riding communities are more than collateral damage. They are warning lights that any serious policymaker or industry leader should notice. The cultural fallout demands policy and market responses. What riders and investors must watch next. After all this, you might be asking what a regular rider or small investor can actually do besides watch the train leave the tracks. The answer starts with paying attention to a few key signals and making clear-headed choices about where you spend your money. You cannot control boardrooms, but you can control your garage. First, watch the dealer count in your region. If you see multiple closures in a 2 or 3 year window with no replacements, treat that as a serious risk factor. A single dealer within a huge radius is one bad quarter away from leaving you stranded for warranty work. Second, look at corporate reports with a skeptical eye. Focus on actual unit shipments and regional sales, not just headline profit boosted by one-time moves. If volume keeps shrinking, the pressure on the remaining network will only grow. The fate of the dealer network will decide how livable ownership remains. If the closures continue unchecked, owning a Harley in large parts of the country will feel like owning an orphaned classic, even when the factory is still alive. The next few years will tell whether leadership listens to riders and dealers or keeps chasing short-term optics. The dealer network can collapse overnight, and your ride depends on what happens next. So there it is, the real story behind Hawaii's dealer collapse, and the warning signs heading toward your state next. If this opened your eyes, hit that like button so more riders see it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss when the next wave of closures hits. And drop a comment below. How many Harley dealers are left in your area? And are you seeing the same warning signs?